I've always had a big personal love for games about samurai, stuff like Nioh or Sekiro, or of course Ghost of Tsushima. Well, Trek to Yomi, it wants to walk in those footsteps, giving us this journey about justice and revenge, and sometimes the fact that sometimes just grasping your blade is not enough to find peace. But additionally, I do feel like Trek to Yomi is a combination of perhaps too many different flavors of content. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the goods and the bads. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and this is my brutally honest review for Trek to Yomi. Now, first and foremost, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help the video a lot. Let's see if we can get this to 2,000 likes. Now, Trek to Yomi is a very short indie game. This is only about 5 hours long. There is some unlockable difficulties and some cool extra stuff, but for the most part, this is a one-and-done experience. You're going to see the story, you're going to defeat the last boss, and you're going to walk off into the sunset. But to me, I feel like these games certainly have a place. The biggest question is Trek to Yomi actually fun to finish that first time? For the most part, yes. This is, as you can see, a purely black and white side-scrolling slasher. During the course of this, you really don't have that many buttons. You have a strong attack, a fast attack. You're able to fire long-ranged weapons when you have extra daggers or arrows to shoot. There's a parry button, and then you can press A to turn around. Yes, that's right, you have to manually turn your back on enemies. But within this, there is a really great sense of tightness to these controls. You're going to be facing a lot of different bandits and demons and a lot of different people that are trying to kill you at any cost. And a lot of times, one wrong button press can spell your very quick demise. Now, part of the way this game works in a side-scrolling sense is that during the course of combat, you can only move left and right. You can't jump, you can't do anything else. You just have to fight the people as they come to you. Now, that's great. It's cool to be able to parry and deflect and do cool finishers, but whenever you're not in combat, it does become a bit more 3D in a sense. You can really explore. Essentially, this allows you to go into different houses, talk to people, sometimes even assist different civilians, and find collectibles. Now, there's not upgrades in the typical sense, like there's not skill trees and stuff, but if you do choose to explore and check those different side spots, you can find permanent upgrades to your ammo capacity, your health, and your stamina. But that does bring me a bit back to the story of Yomi and why this is a good sense of progression for a game that's just trying to bullet focus itself on the plot above all else. You see, in Japanese mythology, there's different ideas about the concept of the afterlife. It's not just about heaven and hell. It's more about you being tested after your death. And this is a game very focused on that. Our hero is somebody that's trying to defend villages. He's trying to make his master proud. He's trying to find what he thinks is the correct path to walk. Every single line of dialogue, everything is focused on this effort of be the best man and be the best swordsman. But during the course of this, you end up in Yomi. When he wakes up in this place, though, he chooses to not just accept his fate and instead to try and physically battle his way out of the underworld, which I have to tell you is extremely epic. Now, I want to talk very in depth about the swordsmanship in this game because this is predominantly where I love the game and the stuff I do genuinely hate about it. First and foremost, I do think that there is a lot of very interesting tight combat moments. There is these interesting set pieces where while you're fighting, it's not always just flat ground encounters. This is the underworld. You're going to be finding all sorts of shifting and changing environments. So it's cool that sometimes you'll be battling in the middle of a burning city with rain just falling around you, or times where you're stuck on a bridge that's currently collapsing and more demons are jumping onto it to try and take you out because they don't care if they die, so you're having to slash through them and continue running. This stuff, though, what I like most about Trek to Yomi is that none of this feels scripted. Everything has this very natural sense of chaos to it. When you manage to win a fight, when you manage to parry somebody at the last second and do a slow-mo slash that wins you the battle, like those moments feel earned. They feel great. It makes it where every second of this 5-hour runtime feels incredibly great and kinetic. But the biggest problems I have with the game itself come down to this black and white art style. Hacking and slashing, using fast attacks, combinations, strong attacks, and then sometimes just trying to fire off a bow shot for a desperate long-range kill, and then doing a finisher which can refill a tiny bit of your health pool. All this feels nice, especially because there are frequent checkpoints. This is a game that is difficult, especially the final bosses, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to just screw you over. It has a purpose, it is meant to be hard, but it's more easy and rewarding than it is just brutally savage. But this does bring me to the biggest detriment, and this is something that I feel like persists in both the style of art and also in the combat. I do feel like the black and white that you see here ends up being a detriment. Now, the reason I say that is because the game itself obviously wants to be a very direct homage to Kurosawa, the ancient swordsman filmmaker, but that's cool, except for the fact that sometimes in fights, because everything is this very flat blending of black and white, you end up with these murky shades of gray. There are a lot of fights, which I'm sure you're seeing even in this video, where it looks like my sword did not connect, because since my sword is very reflective, when you're in shiny places or in big spots of sunlight, a lot of times your sword almost seems invisible. Now, because you do have a lot of chances to practice the combat, it's not about missing your blows. The problem is that when you're killing people, because even if they're spraying out blood, it's just such a tiny amount, it's difficult to feel that impact, that oomph. It feels like a lot of times, even if you are managing to dodge and parry and be crazy good at this game, you're always kind of squinting your eyes and saying, did this work? Is this epic? I really feel like they needed just the tiniest splashes of blood occasionally. At least make it where if I'm running from fire, make there be a tiny tinge of orange. If I slash somebody's jugular and protect a civilian, at least give me just one little tiny splash of blood red. Like, the fact that the entire game is black and white from the title screen to the ending credits is a dedicated choice, but after a bit it did make me feel like this felt like this flat, very, very simplistic, overly low budget angle to it that I do feel like kind of seeps in both the combat and the story of it. Now, I do think the writing in this game is surprisingly good. The entire thing is purely in Japanese, and it does tell an interesting and very unique story about the idea of samurai. I don't want to spoil it, but it really calls into question the idea of honor above all else, about how long you need to fight, how much you need to defend, how much of your life is dedicated to the blade when you just happen to hold it. And I enjoy that. I actually respect the story quite a bit. There is multiple endings, there is some branching story paths, but for the most part this is an ABC story that once you're done, it's done. I did enjoy beating this game, and it was kind of cool to see the different directions it chooses to take and some of the demons and boss fights you end up having to do. But at the end of it, I just kind of felt like, alright, that's nice. For the price tag, I'm not sure this is worth it, but if you manage to play it on Game Pass or something, it is going to be a very good time. But we've heard a lot of good and a little bit of bad. Let's go over to the ratings board and hear me put a big number on it. I am giving Trek to Yomi a 7 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this video, gamers. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a giant thumbs up. It helps out a lot. And please hone your mind, find your center, and become the sword. Alright, you guys rock. Keep being the coolest nerds in the universe. I'm going to get back to playing some other cool samurai games. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. But seriously, do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.